Hello and welcome to the fourth round of season 17 of the GRL European Porsche Cup. Now, this time we are in Bathurst, one of the most renowned circuits on iRacing, I would say, for crashing mostly. And we're looking at Harold van Heerde, who has already set the first lap time of the session. 7 minutes in. And it is a 2:06.3. I think we can expect some faster times soon. But this is what it will be for now. Now, there are currently 6 drivers out and 3 more in the garage. So, already a lot of people here. I hope that more will join soon. And I also hope that at least some people will survive the races. Which, on a track like this, could be very difficult. Well, like I said, that's Harold van Heerde in the wall. And he's going back to the pits. We will be taking a look at Neil Killen in this wonderful black and orange livery. And Neil Killen now into the, I think that's the 3rd corner, or now 4th of the circuit. And he is looking really smooth out here. But it's just the one little mistake that can leave you in one of those walls. which are in most cases way too close for comfort. Now in this race, this is an endurance race today, so it'll be 50 minutes. 50 minutes of racing with one mandatory pit stop. So no heat races today, and no reversing grid orders. But I think some very exciting racing lies ahead. Now, of course, all those drivers need to survive those 50 minutes of racing first, before they can fight for any position. And Belfast is not really known for having many overtaking opportunities, so these drivers will have to pick their battles wisely. These corners are very tight here, and I think especially these ones right here will be a hot spot for some dive bombs down the inside. But this is a very respectful league, at least from what I've seen. So I at least hope that they don't kill each other. But we'll see. Now, of course, 4 people have already set the lap with the fastest time right now being a 2:05.14, done by Bartosz Kluziewicz. And yeah. Now, there are some standings for this league currently, and we'll look at them in just a second. Okay, so now I have them open here. Now, Daniel Thomas, who is currently in second, with the number 60 car, is currently in the lead of the Pro Championship with 144 points after 3 rounds. In Virginia, Fuji and Imola he had spectacular performances, which put him into that position. And he'll be followed by Christian Malczarek, who is currently in second but he is only 10 points behind, and he has overtaken Peter Sigter in terms of points, because Peter Sigter was previously in second position for the championship. Now he's in third, and he's 11 points behind Daniel Thomas. Now these points 10 might sound like a lot, but they are actually pretty easy to come by. Just for reference, Daniel Thomas got just over 70 points every weekend, with be it very, very good performances, with I think almost every race being either a win or a podium, or at least most of them. But the points are still not that rare, as I think, for example, I've won and we're already seeing some of those issues now. Neil Killen got some oversteer into that corner. That's very tricky. You're going up the hill, and car gets pretty light there, especially on the rear axle, and that can be deadly in these cars, as Neil Killen has just shown us. But yeah, now in third we have Peter Sigter with 133 points, and in fourth is Christopher Smith with 131 points, so he's 13 points behind Daniel Thomas. So we will probably have a 4-way battle for the lead in the Pro Championship, and especially a very tight battle for the second place, as they are only 3 points apart, these 3 drivers. Now in fifth we have Joshua Wills with 119 points. He's 25 points behind Daniel Thomas. And behind him we have oh well, I'm sorry about that. I'm still a bit sick. You might have already heard it from my voice. But I've still decided to commentate today, much to which I don't think is going to be good for my voice, but oh well. Wasn't gonna. I think that's the best way to use it here today. So in 6th we have Sander Trache with 115 points, so he's 29 points behind Daniel Thomas. And Julian Carcias, who wasn't here last weekend, but I've heard that he is going to be here this weekend. He has 112 points. But John Bailiff is right behind him with 111 points. So we have another very close fight for P5 with 4 guys that are only 8 points apart. Now Bartosz Tojevic, who currently has the 2nd fastest time, is in 9th, so he's a bit further behind, but he still has some good chances as he's only behind by 35 points. And Ivan Stitchberry is 70 points behind. So yeah, we will see how this goes. Now we'll go down to the amateurs category. Now I'm realizing now it doesn't seem to have calculated all the points, or I might have missed something. But currently in the lead still Dennis Blomart, followed by Tom Carter and Neil Killen, who we were looking at before, in P3. P4 Sebastian Ferreira, and in 5 Kerry Corcoran. In 6th we have Simon Geimer, and in 7th we have Freek Smit. He is actually tied with Mark Verlinden for P7, and in P9 we have Mark De Bruyne. Now these are all the drivers in the amateur category and where they stand. So I hope you at least got some of that information. But I will probably relay it again when battles for championship positions occur. But now we will be looking at some more laps done by Daniel Thomas, who we already established is one of the faster drivers in this league. And he has an astounding record. I would have to look at the results again. But yeah, so last weekend he won the first heat and got third in the 2nd heat, as well as the fastest lap time in Imola. And then the week before in Fuji he won in the first heat, got third in the 2nd heat again, and in the 3rd heat he also got third. So these are some spectacular results for this driver. I think what we need to add especially is the first round of this season, where he got P1 in the 1st heat and P2 in the 2nd heat. So he has performed incredibly and has gotten on the podium in every single race this far. Now the question is, this is immense pressure for this driver. Will he be able to sustain this? Will he be able to keep this going through this endurance race? Now the pit strategy, of course, changes things up a lot, as even slower drivers can gain a lot of time with the strategy. And if Daniel Thomas hasn't prepared here, this could be fatal. But I think in general, it's safe to say that everyone who hasn't looked into strategy will probably have some issues, especially because there is one mandatory pit stop. And if you, or maybe I should say when you get damaged, since we're in Bathurst after all, you'll want to repair it, and the risk always is, do you stay out with damage, do you go in early, and that could also screw up your entire strategy. So it's looking like a very exciting race weekend here today. Now you can already see these incredibly tight corners, with the wall only centimeters from the cars away. And the drivers are still using all of the track they have available, so no room for error. But they are still human, so I think we can expect some death here today. But it'll be interesting how strong this damage will be if we get a pileup or something. I at least hope not, but if that could really impact the championship. Now, if you'll excuse me for a second, I will be right back with you to look at some more laps of these drivers, but I will leave you with Martin Sietsma for now. Here you can listen to the wonderful flat 6 engine. So at the moment, 38 minutes remaining of practice, so all of these drivers will get their last so everyone will get their last couple of practice laps in. Let's hope these drivers have practiced some more than this practice session, because it could be very, very difficult to just get into this track now 1 hour before the race. Especially if you consider its reputation. Oh! If you speak of the devil, I don't know who that was, but it seemed like a very unfortunate incident. Of course, not in the most difficult corner here in Bathurst, but still, every corner here is pretty respectable. And it just seems one driver got unlucky and ended up in the wall. But Martin Sietsma still looking really good out there. He is currently in third, but 1 second slower than Daniel Thomas at the moment. So it seems Daniel Thomas has done a lot of practice, but Bartosz Djurjevic, a very impressive performance, currently only about 0.1 second behind the leader Daniel Thomas. So these drivers are looking incredibly quick, and Bartosz Djurjevic could close in a bit with those also important championship points. Oh, and these walls are also extremely dangerous. You're going over a crest. The car is light. Very easy place to get understeer. And if you're using all the room that you have, like these guys, if you get just a bit too much understeer, or it's pretty much over for your steering. And now these are the more open areas of the track here. It's time to relax a bit for the drivers with these long straights before it gets back up the hill again. Before they get back up the hill and have to do those very tight corners again. Now Janis Kunčík, who I think should be in the amateurs category, if I'm not mistaken, has taken 4th with only 1.4 seconds to the leader, and Martin Sietsma with a time of 2:03.34. Has closed in on Daniel Thomas, who is now only about half a second ahead. Now, Janis Kunčík is in the pro category, but he is pretty far down with only 47 points scored in this championship, as he only attended Fuji. But still, he could be a very good competitor here, especially if he gets in some faster lap times. But currently Daniel Thomas still in the lead, but it's not looking like he's going to improve his lap times by much. Now, it tells me here that his last lap time was the best, but I don't really know how that could be true in any way. Now we look at Christopher Smith, a very important competitor in this championship in the pro category, currently in 4th, so in the fight for P1 in the championship. Someone who Daniel Thomas is surely afraid of, and he's done a 2:04.1, so not the fastest time yet, but it seems like he's still pretty he's still not all warmed up in terms of tires, and also in terms of track knowledge. And Martin Sietsma has taken P1 with a 2:02.6, which will put him 2.27 seconds ahead of Bartosz Kruživić. And Christopher Smith will now have to find 1.5 seconds in his lap if he wants to get to the top spot, at least in practice. Now, of course, the setup these guys are running could make a huge difference. Some may be running qualifying, while others are practicing with their race setup one last time. And we don't really know or have a way to find out what setup these guys are using, so these practice results have to be taken with a grain of salt. But they are a pretty good indicator of how the qualifying is going to go. Now I would reference how the practice times and quali times compared for some of these drivers, but my memory is sadly not big enough for that. So it'll be as much a surprise for me as it will be for you. Now Christopher Smith over the line with a 2:03.9. So it is a bit of an improvement. I think it's about 0.2 seconds, but he's still in 5th. And he still has 1.3 seconds to gain on Martin Sietsma. Now Daniel Thomas with a 2:02.6. Up to P, he's still in P2, but now only 0.03 seconds behind Martin Sietsma. Everyone's seeing fast lap times here. Bartosz Kuliewicz and Janis Kunček both improving their lap times. Not enough to move forward, but enough. But fast enough to better the lap times, it seems. No, this section is especially difficult. You're going down the hill, the brakes have to do all the work while your car is really, really light. So this might be a prime, and this might be a prime crash spot. You might see a pile-up, because you can't really see into that crest until the last second, where you're already going at it full send. Oh, John Bailiff has gone up to 6th position with a time of 2:04.24. So we are looking at some pretty fast lap times already by these drivers, but John Bailiff might not have it in him to fight for the top spots in today's race. But we'll see, there is still a lot of time left. And now Christopher Smith with a 2:03.5. If still in P4, he has moved up one position. He has overtaken Janis Kunček and is now only 1 second behind Martin Sietsma. Daniel Thomas cannot improve his lap time. O'Neill Killen up to P7, and a new competitor, Christopher Wolfgruber. I don't think I've seen him before, though I've only been broadcasting this league for 1 season. I haven't seen him in this season yet, and he has come out of nowhere to take P4, and is now half a second behind Martin Sietsma. And he is looking really fast. Now, if we are going off of iRating, Daniel Thomas currently has 6.1k, and Christopher Wolfgruber has 5,700. So if you're going off iRating, this could be a serious competitor. Not in the championship, of course, as he has already missed 3 races, and I don't think he'll be able to make up that point deficit in the remaining 9. But in these races, he could be a serious competitor. We'll have to wait and see for that. Now Christopher Smith, almost at the start-finish line again. And his lap was looking really good. He was using a lot of room on the track, all he could afford. And Robert Koppler, who I think is also a new competitor, at least for this season, has climbed the ranks up to P4. So Christopher Smith, who was on P4 before, and now down to 6th. And Sebastian Ferreira now has set a time of 2 minutes and 16 seconds. So I think that was just his first out lap. So nothing much to judge there. Now, if you're looking a bit down the ranks, if we are focusing on the amateurs category, Neil Killen is, I think, the best looking amateur driver in in this server currently. And what is confusing me is that he is missing one of his wing mirrors. That could be because of an incident with the wall. Because I don't think that's intentional game design. Now Dennis Blomart, I think he is missing from the session. Oh no, he isn't. He is in P12, but not looking as good as he was in the last couple of races, where he was always able to fight for P1. Now today Neil Killen on P9 with 1.5 seconds to Martin Sietsma. And Tom Carter also in front of... Oh, and off goes Neil Killen. Luckily in one of the only spots where he has some runoff. Oh. What is that? Robert Koppler up to P1 with a time of 2:02.5. So currently the fastest guy out there, and Daniel Thomas has 0.1 seconds again on him. Now Tom Carter, I don't think he's in the session right now. Maybe he'll join later on. Now the two newcomers have taken the podium already, with Christopher Wolfgruber getting the fastest lap time of a 2.02.4. Now Daniel Thomas will be struggling to keep at being the fastest driver in here. Now Christopher Smith has gotten a must repair flag, or whatever it is called. So he has gotten too much damage on his car, and now had to go back to the pits to repair the car. Oh, Dennis Blomart has gotten past Neil Killen, but only 0.06 seconds are between these two drivers. So we'll look for how long that'll last. But currently Dennis Blomart, the leader in the Amateurs Championship rankings, is in the lead once again. Oh, and it was a very hard stint from Neil Killen. Lost the rear for a bit there, but had the wall correct him. Now that could have also led to some wheel damage on the back. But we'll hope not. We'll hope that he can continue on his merry way. And Christopher Wolfgruber with a 2:02.3. Now still the fastest driver, but he has expanded his lead a lot more. With Robert Koppler now 0.2 seconds behind him. So now only 22 minutes remain until the start of the race. Neil Killen still chasing down Dennis Blomart. But it's not looking like he's gonna improve his lap time soon. He has been having some issues, but we'll still hope for the best. Oh, and Dennis Blomart with a 2:03.70. Neil Killen, we have seen this incident before the exact same way, and now he's holding up all the traffic. He'll have to reset. He's not resetting to the pits, he's letting driver through. That's the, I think, 540 something. We'll take a closer look right here. Yeah, I think that's the 540 something, 543 that is Julian Garcias, who until last race was still in the fight for the Pro Championship, but has since missed the race, so it's looking a bit more difficult for him. Now, top 6 drivers all currently in the pits. Christopher Smith has 1.2 seconds to gain if he wants to get close to Christopher Wolf-Gruber and see if that is possible. Now, of course, I have mentioned before the difference in quali and race setup. That could, of course, be at play here, but these guys are probably just really quick. Now, my voice isn't the greatest at the moment, so do keep that in mind when I take some longer pauses when speaking. We're looking at Guillaume Potvin. I've definitely butchered that name, but he is looking mighty quick, currently only 2 seconds slower than Christopher Wolf-Gruber, and I think he is also a newcomer, or someone that didn't drive in this season, at least, if I have seen that correctly. Oh! As I've said, very tricky those corners, and he has just gone a bit too early or a bit too hard on the throttle, and that has just turned his car around. Now, of course, with the engines of these cars being in the back, it makes it very hard for the drivers to save the car once it has entered the spin. Now we are looking at Christian Wolf-Gruber at the moment. He is still going out for some faster lap times, and he is going to cross the finish line soon, and we'll see what kind of time he'll be able to get into the last braking zone and through turn 23, that is, over the start finish line. And he is weaving a bit, so he's probably still warming up his tires. Oh, he will not improve his lap time for now, but I think his competitors were struggling enough already to... would already struggle enough to get close to that kind of time. I think he doesn't really have to make it more difficult for them. Now, Julian Kasi is a very quick driver who has moved up from the amateurs category to the pro category and was looking really, really good until he missed the last race, sadly. So he is now in 7th. And he was looking really good in Fuji, I believe it was. He even got 1st or 2nd place. I don't remember the exact position at the moment. And he will be going into the pits, so we'll look at another driver maybe a bit further down the field. I think Sebastian, I would be looking at Sebastian Ferreira, but it seems like he has a pretty damaged car, or is that just a camber? Doesn't look normal. I'm unsure. We'll just leave it at that, and we'll look at Marc de Bruyn, who is at least currently one of the slower drivers in the field, with him currently being in P16 with 4 seconds to Christopher Wolf-Gruber. So traffic could be something to consider here in this race, as it does seem like we do have some pace difference here. And we'll have to wait and see how all of this turns out. It could also be that Marc de Bruyn hasn't been able to set a good lap time until now. So we'll still be seeing if he can improve his lap time. Now for turn 23, the last corner of the circuit, and go on to the start-finish line and finish with a time of 2:05.5, which is an improvement of about 1 second. So he is improving rapidly, which could mean that he hasn't been able to set a lap time in good conditions just yet. I will be excited where he ends up at the end of quali. Oh, Christopher Wolf-Gruber, a time of 2:01.92, has now gotten a massive gap to the field behind, with him now almost with him now more than half a second ahead of the field. And he has broken into the 2:02 times. So it's not looking like the other drivers are going to be able to put up much of a fight. But still nothing decided yet. This is just practice. And everything will be decided in the quali that will follow in 12 minutes. Now Marc de Bruyn, who we are looking at right now, is about to finish his next lap. And we can see the number 175, which is, I think, Christopher Smith's car. Yeah, it is. Going into the pits. Oh, and Marc de Bruyn up one position with now a 2:04.5. So he has improved a little bit. Christopher Smith currently on 9th, now Bartosz Kruczewicz. It's Janusz Kunczyk has been able to improve his lap time, with him now doing a 2:02.4, 0.8. I'm sorry about that. So people are moving up, but that also means that people are moving down because of it. It's going to be very, very interesting, this race, especially this qualifying with all these new guys. Something huge could happen here, and championship could be shaken up today. Now we're looking at Robert Koppler. He's using all of the track he can, even going out onto the grass there. So he's definitely using as much room as he can and trying his best to get close to Christopher Wolfgruber, who is just half a second ahead, but that is a huge half a second as if you're at the top of the field like these two are. And I think gaining half a second is going to be a big ask for Robert Koppler, but I don't think I'll speak too soon, as he is looking very quick on his current lap. Getting really close to those walls now. Going down towards that last corner before it goes onto that long straight where he can relax a bit and recover from the last lap a bit. And now he only has about 3 corners left, or 4 if you want to be exact, to nail this lap, to gain those last 0.5 seconds. And he will be crossing the line with a time of 2:02.1. So he has gained around 0.3 seconds, but it is still not enough to dethrone the current fastest driver, with Robert Koppler now 0.2 seconds behind. So there's still some time to gain if he's looking at the podium, if he's looking at the top spot for practice at least. Qualifying could be a whole nother story, but could also not be. It's going to be interesting. Now I think we'll look back at Martin Sietsma, who was leading the quali for a long time, but has now fallen back to 3rd, but is still ahead of Daniel Thomas, who, as I've already talked about extensively, has been absolutely dominating this league so far. But Martin Sietsma doesn't have a huge gap that saves him from Daniel Thomas, and he'll be going to the on the grass. That will definitely cost him some time, but he is still the third fastest. Now the 2 guys in front, they had very similar liveries. They come from the same region, so it might be possible to assume that we are talking about teammates here. Now we're excited for qualifying that will commence in 6 minutes. In 6 minutes we'll see who can really take home We'll be looking at Joshua Wills, who will be finishing his next lap right now in that beautiful Taco Bell livery. Currently 7th with 1 second behind Christopher Wolfgruber. And he will not set a new lap time right now, but he will stay out, and maybe this will be an even faster lap than his previous record. Now we have the number 16 right behind him. And that is Marino Kolarik. Oh, who has just spun on cold tires. As I've already said, very difficult circuit here. Very challenging. It's going to be very physical for the drivers to keep the cars on the road. And we'll see where all of this ends. Joshua Wills is a bit in a no man's land, at least if you look back, with Julian Garcias being about 1.1 seconds 0.6 seconds behind him, so you won't have to fear him in the near future, but he is very close to Janusz Kunčík, who is only about 0.05 seconds ahead in terms of lap time. Julian Garcias improved. He is now set a 2:03.4, and with that he will stay on P9 and decrease the gap on Joshua Wills. Now I am personally a bit tired. As you know, I have a cold, so I should probably be laying. Oh, that is that Eugene? It could have been. Okay, so that was number 225. Let me just look at who that was. But that livery looked familiar. 225, that is Simon Zaug. Someone who has been driving this league for a bit longer. So yeah. So I should probably be resting right now. But I am broadcasting this race for about another hour, so we'll see how that goes. Now 1 minute of practice is left, and Joshua Wills' attempts will come to an end. He's currently in P7, now closing on the start-finish line. We'll see if he can beat his previous time and get into the top 5 even, maybe. And the competition is fierce, but Joshua Wills has already shown that he has a pretty good performance, but it will not be enough today to get into the top 5, at least for practice. Now qualifying will start at any moment. And Mats Strand has joined us here today. Another very, very quick driver. He's not been out for long. But we'll just see how this goes. For him in quali, now we have 27 drivers on the grid. For this race, we'll see with how many we will end. Now, Neil Killen, the first one to exit pits here in the replay, and we'll go to live and look at how he's doing. I was right in front of the number 60, which is the car of Daniel Thomas. And the liveries are very similar, so I'm expecting them to be teammates. So it might be... You might have to watch out for Neil Killen just letting Daniel Thomas pass. But they are currently both going full push. Now, of course, there are several fun... No, that's Martin Sietsma. Just behind there to consider. As he should not be getting any slipstream if possible. And changing positions would cost these two drivers a lot of time. Oh, and Neil Killen just getting a bit of oversteer there when the car is light. Loses that rear and just can't save it. Just going straight into the wall. Very unfortunate there. That will end his... And will end his lead for the quali attempt. Now Daniel Thomas has the free track all for himself. And he is almost done with that lap. And now turn 21, turn 22. Driven beautifully, but this does not count yet. He will... This is only the out lap, so next lap it'll be more important what he can do. Now, my question is, are Robert Koppel and Christopher Wolfgruber out? Yeah, they are. And they seem to be close together. So we might be... Or this might be some... So there might be some team strategy at play here. But only 3 minutes left of qualifying and still no one has set the lap time. And Daniel Thomas, who we're looking at right now, will be doing it first. It is looking very, very quick at the moment. We'll just see if he can get... So he will get pole position, of course, but if he can hold that. So this is of course still with cold tires, still with cold everything. So it's not going to be the best lap ever. But it could be something decent to at least not hold him, or to at least not get him trapped in last place for the race start. So this bank lap is very important. Now 6 minutes of quali remaining, and Daniel Thomas will be the first driver to set a lap time here. Through the last corner he goes into the start finish line, and he will cross the start finish line right now with a time of 2:07.4. Right behind him Bartosz Kruziewicz with a time of 2:06.5, and Martin Sietsma with a time of 2:11.5. Now there are a bunch of new times coming in. I don't think I'll be able to read all of those out loud. Bartosz Kruziewicz currently 1 second faster than Daniel Thomas. You can see him right behind in the picture. It should be the, I think it's red car. Oh no, where has Bartosz Kruziewicz gone? I will be taking a quick look. Ah, there he is. So he's still going strong. Now Kerry Corcoran onto P1. That is very impressive with a 2:06.4. But of course I think that'll be snatched away from him in just a second when all of these drivers cross the line for the second time and set their real, quote-unquote, real laps. But Mark de Bruyn with a 2:05.846, currently the fastest driver out there. But Daniel Thomas is closing in on that start-finish line, and won't be long until he sets the lap time. The question will of course be, is it fast enough to get him into pole position and also keep him there? Now of course there are the two newcomers, Robert Koppler and Christopher Wolfgruber, to consider. They are on P6 and 8 respectively at the moment, but these tires on cold temperature don't have anything to don't indicate anything in terms of pace, as people are just struggling with cold tires, getting them warm, getting them up to temp, and not knowing how much grip they have. And Christopher Wolfgruber with a 2:03.0 will be taking the top spot, followed by Martin Sietsma with a 2:03.5. Robert Koppler currently in third, 2:03.6. So the fight for the top spots are very close. So Bartosz Kruziewicz didn't set a fast lap time, I think, as well as Daniel Thomas. So both of these drivers will have to wait for the next lap. And Sebastian Ferreira with a 2:06.3 up to P10. Julian Carcias with a 2:04.27 up to P5. He is now 1.2 seconds behind pole position. Now this field isn't really tight in terms of pace just now, but I think it will get way better in the race. And of course, many haven't even set their fastest lap yet. For example, here Bartosz Kruziewicz on his way to the start-finish line, where he will set the next fastest lap time. But do keep in mind that both of these drivers only have two flying hot laps. Oh, I'm getting really tired now, but I'll try to push through to bring you this race. Bartosz Kruziewicz over the line with a 2:03.7. That will put him in 5th. Christopher Smith into 8th with a 2:04.0. And Daniel Thomas into the lead for just a second though, as Christopher Wolfgruber has taken the pole position again, but he's only 0.04 seconds ahead of Daniel Thomas. Now that is the car of Daniel Thomas on the side of the road there. And also top 4 spots are in the pits. Now you only have 2 hot laps, so I don't know if Bartosz Krujovic, which is lap now, will still count. But Joshua Wills 0.1 seconds behind. I mean Bartosz Krujovic is 0.1 seconds behind Joshua Wills. So a top 5 finish, at least in qualifying, could still be possible. Oh, there are so many drivers in here. 27 to be exact. So we could see some traffic here today. I think the fights especially will be very interesting. Especially if you look from about P6 down to P10. These guys are all within half a second of each other. And also the lead is looking, the fight for the lead is looking very interesting. Now, who I'm missing at the top is, never mind, there he is, Matstrand, currently in 4th. But he is 7.5 tenths behind in Christopher Wolfgruber. And Wolfgruber, Kepler and Thomas will hold the top 3 for now, with a huge gap to the guys behind. Now last few guys are finishing. Bartosz Krujovic will go over the line with a time of 2:03.8. So no improvement there. Christopher Smith will improve a bit, and that will put him into P4. Now Joshua Wills 2:03.4 up to P5. John Bailiff 2:03.44 8 up to P7. And now the race will begin in just a second. Only Neil Killen is out right now. And there he is. But let's see if iRacing ends his attempt before I can finish it. Now, if you want to race in this league, there is a link to the Discord down in the description, or you can also search for the GRL league in the league tab of iRacing. They do Porsche Cup for America and European time zones, and also some more stuff after I think with touring cars, for example, that are also very interesting to drive for yourself. So now qualifying's over. The race will start in just a second. We'll take a quick ad break and I will be right back with you. So, we are back at Mount Panorama, where in just a second, or 1 minute I should say, the race will start. And this is the leader. This is the guy in pole position, Christopher Wolfgruber, with the number 41. And his teammate right behind him in third, Daniel Thomas in second. This could be a very tight battle up front now. Christopher Smith, a very quick driver, could also get involved into the fight. But we will see. Now Peter Sigter, one of the contenders for the Pro Championship, sadly not here today. But so that could affect his chances for the championship win, as he was one of the top contenders for it. And now it's time. And the lights are out at Bathurst, as in Christopher Wolfgruber will instantly go to the outside to get the best line he can, 41, and Robert Koppler instantly alongside with Daniel Thomas. Now they're too wide, getting down towards the second corner, and behind them there's also some fighting going on. I think it's Christopher Smith looking for a way past them, and maybe even trying to make it 3 wide, but he just can't find that gap to get past. Now Mats Strand fighting with Joshua Wills, it seems, and Christopher Wolfgruber already pulling a gap. I will change the view here to interval so we can see the battles going on a bit clearer. So Robert Koppler and Christopher Wolfgruber both out front, and now Daniel Thomas left alone to fend off that angry horde right behind him. But this is a very bad place to overtake. I don't think anyone's going to attempt it here. So it is just a snake winding its way through these corners, at the moment at least. But now there's a long straight. Now we're into some slipstream battles. This could become very interesting. John Bailiff is looking like he'll try and overtake Mats Strand. We'll take a look. Now the gap is closing, but the question is, will it be closing enough to attempt to dive from down the inside? And the question is, will Mats Strand try and defend? Mats Strand will try and defend, and he will defend successfully. But what was that? Janek Kunčík, Janis Kunčík got past Martin Sietsma or Julian Casius, one of the... Oh, what is going on behind? These guys are going 50 wide through these corners. This is incredible. And Christopher Smith had some kind of incident. Oh, 3 wide into the first corner. Bartosz Klujevic, Dennis Blument involved there, and also Christopher Smith. Christopher Smith was a contender for the top spot, but has now fallen back a lot. And now Bartosz Klujevic to the outside of the corner. Christopher Smith still on the inside, maybe trying to get past. Oh! That is looking very interesting. Dennis Blument against Christopher Smith. And I think that's Simon Geimer. Simon Geimer. And I think that's Neil Killen now, 2 wide. And Sebastian... No, Frederik Smith. Oh, no. Oh, I'm mixing these up constantly. Oh, these battles are happening faster than I can talk about them. And now Neil Killen chasing down Simon Geimer but he's also being chased down by Sebastian Ferreira and Simon Zauk. Both these drivers very, very quick. I think this is the most exciting that we are having right now. Now John Bailiff into the wall. That will mean he's out of the race. Now this track, I've already said it is very difficult. So, oh, Daniel Thomas has crashed. We will look at that replay. Now he was in third. Oh! Just hit that curb wrong, and the car lifted out under him into the wall. Very unfortunate. We'll also look at the instead John Bailiff had. Now going down into these corners is a very tricky section, and he will lose the rear into the wall. Very unfortunate. This is very sad stuff to see. So many top contenders have already had some issues or are out already. Oh, I thought it was Christopher Wolfgruber having some issues. Neil Killen against Simon Geimer. Neil Killen down the inside into the second corner. Is there enough overlap to try and dive in? Yes, it is, and Simon Geimer will have to give up that position. And there's already a gap behind, so Neil Killen got a very clean pass there. It's looking very good for him now. Dennis Blomart is on P8. That is his championship rival, and that is who he will be trying to reach. But Dennis Blomart has gotten a gap of 3 seconds on him, so it is not looking too easy for him to get there in time. And we have to consider the aspects of 1, the strategy, and 2, of course, a dedication Neil Killen has to this championship, as he has been taking part here for a very long time and is also in the organization. Well, we'll see how this turns out. Now Bartosz Kruszewicz against Julian Garcias. 4P6. Bartosz Kruszewicz will get the pass done, and Julian Garcias will have to go. We'll have to go slot in behind him. There's Patrick Rosendahl directly behind Marino Kodarik. This could also be very interesting. We'll see what this next straight brings us. But all these drivers looking very, very quick, looking very, very committed to get some kind of pass done. And I think we might be already be close to one, as Tom Carter is looking very close to Joao Gabriel. Oh, Tom Carter has overshot that corner. So now Tom Carter against Guido Maillet. Now my throat does not want me to continue this broadcast, so we'll see how I'll manage for these remaining 40 minutes. But Tom Carter now to the outside. It looked like Maillet was giving that position up. Yeah, there's a fight a bit further up the front, but Patrick Rosendahl against Marino Kodarik. Oh, what a switchback from Patrick Rosendahl. This is incredible racing we're watching right now, and Joao Gabriel is still fighting against Marino Kodarik. But there's still some incredible fights going on. For example, Simon Geimer against Neil Killen. No, my throat is getting really bad. further up the order. Julian Cassius against Martin Sietsma. They are on the really tight corners at the top, on top of the hill, so it's not looking too great for Julian Cassius in terms of overtaking opportunities. But if he can stay behind, there are some 3 long straights that he can use to overtake. He'll just have to stay behind. It's not that huge of a gap, those 0.2 seconds, so it'll also be a game of chicken with how close he wants to go with the car in front. Now through the last corner, that gap has opened up. That is not good for Julian Cassius, because now Bartosz Kruszewicz in front is as close to Martin Sietsma as Julian Cassius. And now Martin Sietsma has gone from defender to attacker and is closing that gap on Bartosz Kruszewicz as best as he can. Now Christopher Wolf-Gruber and Robert Koppler still dominating this race. I think there's not much happening up front. Julian Cassius still trying to claw his way back to the back of Martin Sietsma. And it is working now. The gap is down to 0.4 seconds. But it is not enough to get Martin Sietsma before we have this long windy section on top of the hill. Okay, Marc de Bruyn has crashed. We will be taking a look very briefly. Okay, what happened here? Maybe some technical difficulties. That could be. And also Joao Gabriel has crashed. We'll see. Oh, we have seen this before with I don't know who it was. I think it was one of the top contenders. Very unfortunate now. Martin Sietsma was in a fight with Julian Cassius. Now it's 0.4 seconds between these two drivers. This is looking a lot better than the last attempt, as Bartosz Kruszewicz has also opened up a huge gap. So Martin Sietsma can't rely on that slipstream to defend against Julian Cassius. But the question is, will that be enough for Julian Cassius to be able to get past in the slipstream? Now through the last corner onto the start finish straight. Martin Sietsma will be able to open that gap up a bit again. But this could be very close now. This corner needs to sit if Julian Cassius wants any chance of getting past. And he lost a bit of time there. So 0.43 seconds between them. That's not looking like an overtake. But what is looking like an overtake is Simon Zerk, who is now side by side with Sebastian Ferreira. Sebastian Ferreira on the inside. And both barreling towards turn 2. Simon Geimer in front. Oh, and there's a touch, and Simon Zerk is going into the wall. Oh, that must have been some heavy damage to that car. That is very unfortunate. That's not how you want these kind of fights to end. But he's back chasing. That is now Patrick Rosendahl, who he is looking at the moment. Now, Tom Carter has crashed, so we'll take a quick look at that. Oh, up on that curb. That can't end well. And it can't now. Luckily it was only a spin. But now he's gone somehow. I don't know. Oh, and Kin Faolu has crashed. Now, these guys were a bit further down the field. Oh. Just, these cars are very rear happy. And you see that a lot in these kind of incidents. Now Neil Killen against Christopher Smith. The pro versus the AM driver. The pro driver with the amateur driver. Now, in terms of I rating, Christopher Smith has an advantage of about 1,500. Will that actually use him? Will that actually grant him any advantage if his car is already broken a bit? Now, that was a good exit by Neil Killen, 2.5 tenths. Now to Christopher Smith. And will Neil Killen go to the inside? No, he won't. He will stay behind for another lap. The question is if that was his only opportunity to overtake, if Christopher Smith can now build a gap and get away the best he can. Now the field is opening up a bit. And Julian Corsi is fighting against Martin Sietsma. Now all of these guys are getting full send. But it could also very quickly lead to catastrophe, like in the case of Simon Zaug. Oh, that curb. Those curbs are deadly. You can't... Oh, that car just got very, very light, and that's a spin for him. But Julian Corsi is now 0.7 seconds behind Martin Sietsma. The question is, will he be able to catch up? Will he be able to take a step towards that top 5 finish? Now, he has lost significantly in the last couple of laps. Or not in the last couple of laps, he has lost a bit. He went from about 0.1 second behind Martin Sietsma to now 0.6 seconds. Even when closing in with the slipstream a bit. Well, it is looking like Martin Sietsma will be the fastest driver in this situation. You can just see after corner that gap is just growing again. No, it is not looking good for Martin Sietsma. Corsi is doing his best of closing in. Now that gap has gone down to half a second, but every corner it seems like every corner it is growing. It seems like Martin Sietsma can take those corners just a little bit better, but not in this case. Now the gap has gone down to below half a second. And Corsi is going ever closer, and they are straight ahead. 0.4 seconds. Now, depending on the exit, Ewan Corsi can get here. This could be a good overtake, but he won't be close enough to attempt any of that. So I think we'll look back at Patrick Rosendahl against Sebastian Ferreira. Now Patrick Rosendahl trying to use the slipstream to get past Sebastian Ferreira, but there is just not enough time. But there are 2 more straights to close in. Yeah, only 0.3 seconds between those two guys now. Oh, ew, and Patrick Rosendahl into the pits for his for his mandatory pit stop. And now Christopher Smith also into the pits. And Tom Carter has crashed again. I'm seeing... Or... Oh. 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 Maybe if I... No, it's... Okay. I guess I'll live with that. But Patrick Rosendahl now out of the pits in P17. So he has lost quite some time and position. And we'll see how all of that turns out for him. Now this is the current leader, Christopher Wolfgruber. He is now in his 10th lap and is leading by 3.5 seconds over his teammate Robert Koppler. And these two drivers looking very, very quick. I don't know, is that a color sign on the top of the windshield? I didn't really get that. But Julian Carcias still fighting with Martin Sietsma for P6. This fight has been going on for ages and no one is willing to back down. Both are just trying to do their best at opening or closing the gap in their favor. And now as Patrick Rosendahl has taken this first pit stop, the question remains if it was a good decision. I don't think I've seen anyone pit directly at the start, which could have been a good decision. Oh, and that is Tom Carter facing the wrong way. So Tom Carter not having the best race. Like I said, this is a very difficult circuit. And now 28 minutes remain of racing. I'll go down to Marino Kolarek, who is chasing down Kerry Cochran. It's not looking good for my throat. So now Marino Kolarek trying to close in on Kerry Cochran. But that gap is opening up so quickly. It doesn't seem like Marino Kolarek has any chance of closing that gap. It was below half a second just now. Now we're on at a complete second before, so this gap is shifting incredibly often. Oh, and now it's going down again, 0.4 seconds between the two drivers. For the last corner they go onto the start finish straight. That is Sebastian Ferreira, who has had some kind of incident and is now involved into this battle. Marino Kolarek trying to go around the outside and in pull back. He will get past Sebastian Ferreira. Harold van Herde also behind there. And I think it could be Christopher Smith behind there. Oh. And Marino Kolarek and Sebastian Ferreira to the outside, but Marino Kolarek can hold the inside just fine and is now ahead. of the Porsche Cup with the number 21. So the field has spread out, and there aren't much more fights going on. And Patrick Rosendahl has crashed. Oh, just when those curbs, they are getting everyone today. It will be him into the wall. Very unfortunate, of course. But these gaps aren't closing anytime soon here. From Kerry Cochran to Errol van Herde, everyone is involved in this four-way battle for P10. And I see now Simon Zerk has gone into the pits to do his mandatory pit stop. Oh, and Sebastian Ferreira will go in as well to do his mandatory pit stop. Now it's Marino Colari against Harold van Herde once again. So let's see. Oh, and that is Simon Zaug, I believe. Right, or at least, yeah, it is. That is Simon Zaug. But he's letting all the drivers through. He also doesn't seem to have the best of races, as he is quite far down and already a lap behind these drivers. Marino Kolarek is closing that gap to Kerry Cochran, but that gap, it is dwindling and then rising. It is so unpredictable, and I'm excited to see where this ends after this twisty section down the hill now. Oh, and Harold van Herde is also catching up. Harold van Herde also once again involved. Now this doesn't seem to be the best of sections for Marino Kolarek, as he has lost a lot of time there. And there aren't many more battles going on at the moment. Julian Cassius. Though Julian Cassius is fighting with Martin Sietsma still. And he was 0.4 seconds faster last lap. So it may be looking good for him to get a pass done. I think we will be taking a look at that. And these are the two drivers now going into turn 2. Julian Cassius using a lot more track than Martin Sietsma, as you can see in almost every corner. But it doesn't seem to gain him much time. And very wide, they're very close to the wall. These drivers are giving everything. But the gap isn't really closing down. It's the same as with Marino Kolarek and Kerry Cochran, in that the gap is just opening and closing all the time. In the end, Julian Cassius can't really make a pass when he gets onto the long straight, because he's too far back now. The next corner, the next 2 or 3 corners could be really important for Martin Sietsma, as Julian Cassius would be close enough to overtake if he messes something up. but he's looking like he's doing that wonderfully. Now 20 minutes of racing remain. Julian Garcias has now got a 0.8 second gap to Martin Sietsma. So they're still fighting pretty hard. But Martin Sietsma hasn't had to take a defensive line until now. But that could change very quickly. Garcias, incredible driver, as I've already said, P1 or 2 in Fuji. So not a slow driver by all means, but these are both pro drivers. So that is the big question, if Julian Garcias can maybe adjust his line a bit or be a bit more consistent to close that gap to Martin Sietsma. Of course, the same thing for Martin Sietsma. If he can get a bit more consistent, he could open that gap and just drive into the sunset without Garcias being able to do anything. Oh, but now Harold van Herde against Marino Kolarik. It's a very tight battle, both almost bumper to bumper down these twisty turns of the mountain. Now through the last corner they go. Onto the long straight. Harold van Herde is 6.5 times behind, so it'll not be enough to get a slipstream pass done. But it could be enough to get a slipstream pass done on the straight after the start finish line. Now very hard braking into this corner. It's also a very big factor, these corners, if a driver loses or gains time. And Marino Kolarik into the pits for his mandatory pit stop. Now a big aspect is of course over and undercutting, because if you go into the pits you'll come out in a different position in the field than before, so especially if you're fighting very hard for an extended period of time, it could be better to go into the pits earlier and try to it could be good to enter the pits earlier and try to pass your opponent or gain on your opponent that way. Now Christopher Smith 11 seconds behind Harold van Herde. These gaps have gotten massive. I think both Wolfsburger and Koppler have not yet done their mandatory pit stop. That would be a very exciting aspect. Though I do believe the one that fuels up later does have an advantage. I don't think that's logically possible, as they both have to put in the fuel the same amount of fuel, but I think especially for these guys in front, they will want to use that free air to get the best lap time possible. I think that if there's a lot of traffic ahead, they will also be able to go in sooner. To avoid losing time to the traffic. Now Sebastian Ferrer against Marino Kolarik. Gap has gotten very tiny between these two, and Marino Kolarik will have to fear for his position. Sebastian Ferrer will try and go down the inside, but there isn't enough room for him there. He'll have to stay behind, but that is close enough to get it done on one of the next straights. I don't think it's going to be the start-finish line. No, it isn't. But the next straight is phenomenal for those slipstream battles. So Sebastian Ferrer just waits one more corner, which could be an incredible overtake. He just needs to get a clean exit. And now they are alongside. Oh, no, they aren't. Harold van Herde has slotted in between them. Oh, I was very confused there for a moment, but Harold van Herde slotted in between them and has stopped that overtaking maneuver. But now Sebastian Ferrer is on the tail of Harold van Herde and will try to get past. Now Harold van Herde, his tires have cooled down a bit. So the big question is, will that affect his performance much? It is because I don't think these drivers have changed tires, but even without changing the tires, there are still some. What was that? Was Sebastian Ferrer involved there in any way? I didn't really see it. We'll take a look again. Yeah, into the last corner. Oh, and Sebastian Ferrer will go down the inside, and it'll be Netcode that sends Harold van Herde off the track. But that'll be a case for the stewards to look at later. Now Sebastian Ferrer chasing down Marino Kolarik. I think we will go on board with Sebastian Ferrer for one lap at least, to see what the circuit looks like from the driver's POV. That gearbox whine that's so infamous for the Porsche Cup cars. That is what these cars are famous for. It is one of the things these cars are famous for. Ferrari doing his absolute best to catch up to Marino Kolarik. As you can see, there is a big risk factor. Now the car is getting heavier and lighter in so many turns, so every turn has some different grip aspect. And you can really see that in his driving, that he is adjusting for all of them. That he has to readjust for every single corner. Now he's onto the long straight. I think we'll look up the order and see what's going on there. So Christopher Wolfgruber still in P1, followed by Robert Koppler. And then Joshua Wills ahead of Strand. Now Daniel Thomas out of the race. So he won't be getting any points here today. Oh, that was a very big slide from Christopher Wolfgruber. but he has caught it beautifully. Now Julian Casius has gotten past Martin Sietsma somehow. Now Martin Sietsma is on the hunt to get his position back. Now, Marino Kolarek against Kerry Cochran is also shaping up to be a very interesting fight. Both drivers only 0.3 seconds apart. And there isn't much twisty bit left before they go into the long main straight, where the overtaking can commence. We'll just very quickly look at the crash Simon Sarkis had. Oh, turned in too much there. And then that rear is gone. Yeah, unfortunate. So now these drivers onto the long straight, 0.5 seconds between them. Now Marino Kolarek could get the move done here, not here, but on the on one of the next straights, if he closes in enough in the corners, and he is closing in very, very much. That gap is going down. Oh, not anymore. That is now 0.6 seconds between those drivers. So the next corner will be very important for Marino Kolarek. Oh, and I don't think that's enough to get past in the slipstream. I think some other drivers have already started with getting past the slipstream in with 0.4 seconds or 0.5 seconds back. With 0.6 seconds back, it's basically impossible to get a move done. Yeah. If I'm being honest here. Yeah, this cold is hitting me pretty hard. I'm very tired, so I'm sorry that the commentary isn't as good as the other times. This is mostly because I am very, very tired. And I'm sorry about it, but I'm trying my best to hold it all together for 8 minutes. So Harold van Herde has crashed. Let's see what happened. Now we've already seen some crashes here. Oh, and it's the exact same scenario. Rear gets loose, and you just can't save that type of incident. Bartosz Kruziewicz under pressure from both Julian Casius and Martin Sietsma. Now the question is if everyone has got... the big question is, has everyone gotten their mandatory pit stops done? Does anyone need to still go in? No, if I... So I at least hope that this is the right display that I'm looking into, but it looks like everyone, at least in the top 16, has done their mandatory pit stop. What happened to Kolarek? Kolarek still in the chase for P10. Kerry Cochran has been holding him off very, very well for the last 15 minutes or something. So hats off to Gary Cochran. But Marino Kolarek is not ready to give up. He's ready to use those last 6 minutes to get what he wants, and what he wants is P10. We'll see how that unfolds. In the meantime, Julian Kasius against Bartosz Krušević. 0.5 seconds between those drivers now. These corners are very important for Bartosz Krušević, because if he makes a mistake here, he'll basically get eaten up by Julian Kasius, but Julian Kasius has gotten a bit wide there and touched the grass. Also lost the rear a bit. That has lost him about a quarter of a second compared to Bartosz Krušević, and there is now way too much distance between the two drivers way too much of a distance to get an overtake done. And they're back into the windy streets of the hill. They're going up the mountain now. And let's see who has the better pace here. Bartosz Krušević gapping Julian Kasius at the moment. The gap has grown to 1 second. Julian Kasius only needs one incident to get past. Now let's see if Bartosz Krušević can hold it together. But I think Julian Kasius is the one that can't hold it together. Huge wall tap. That right mirror completely gone. Oh, that is not what you want to see when you're fighting so hard for P4 and you're in the top 5, which is a really good position. Now Bartosz Krušević out of the slipstream, but Martin Sietsma is going to use that slipstream. To try and close at least a bit in. Now Martin Sietsma is closing in on Julian Kasius. Julian Kasius doesn't have anywhere to run anymore. But what is happening a bit further down? Dennis Blomart, who is now in P7. A very respectable performance for the current amateur championship leader. Is being chased down by Christopher Smith, who should in theory be the fastest driver. Let's see how this unfolds. Yeah, if Dennis Blomart can defend the right way and place his car decently, Christopher Smith could easily lose that position to him, as there are also only 3 minutes remaining, so 2 laps I think. We'll look at where the leader is. So that could also mean that it is ending a bit earlier. Or no, what I want to say is that it could last 1 extra lap depending on when he crosses that line. So now it's about 30 seconds to cross that line. I don't think that'll happen. So it should normally be the white flag waving right now, if I'm correct. Now 15 seconds remaining, 10 seconds remaining, so 2. And will that be the white flag? No. Okay, so we are looking at an extra lap right now, and Marino Kolarik is still applying pressure on Kerry Corcoran. Now the gap has decreased a little bit again, 0.4 seconds between these two drivers, and now it's important for Marino Kolarik to keep that, or it would have been his task to keep that gap so small, but gap is already back up to 1 second. So this is getting interesting. 0.5 seconds between Bartosz Krušević and Julian Kasius. Julian Kasius now closing in, of course, with all the slipstream he has. I think it'll gain him about 0.1 seconds here on this straight, so a significant gain. Oh, and he's also the one that is later on the brakes, but he's worse on the exit. Now he's lost that 0.1 seconds that he has gained on the straight. So heartbreaking, but no good exits at the moment, and that was a huge moment out of the corner. He has kept it. He has kept the car on the road, but Martin Sietsma has gone through. And Julian Karsi is out of the top 5 now. I think it seems like he was lacking a bit of practice, because the consistency was not on point here today. The pace was really, really good. He could have easily fought for the top 5 here, but just the consistency was lacking a lot. Oh, but now that is not a huge gap here. 2.25 seconds. 0.25 seconds, I mean. And Julian Karsi is closing in rapidly. Martin Sietsma will go defensive. Julian Karsi is around the outside. He will be the one who's later on the brakes, but who will be the one with the worst line. And Martin Sietsma will go through and stay in 5th place. Now it's the white flag being waved. You can see it right there. So last lap, there is a second between these two drivers. I don't think much is happening there anymore. But Marino Kolarek has gotten past Kerry Corcoran of so let me here. We'll take a quick look at the replay. Oh, and Kerry Corcoran into the wall there. It was enough for Marino Kolarek to get past. Oh, everything kind of demands mistakes here. And we'll be looking at Christopher Wolf-Gruber. Oh, and Kerry Corcoran has passed Marino Kolarek again, but we'll now look at Christopher Wolf-Gruber, who will be finishing this race in P1 with a giant gap of 3.5 seconds to his teammate, and after his teammate 20 seconds to the next driver, Joshua Wills. And I will say congratulations to these two drivers. What an incredible drive. Didn't have mostly without issues, mostly without moments. A well-deserved P2. P1 and 2, I mean. And Joshua Wills, 20 seconds spent, will now also go into pits. Now Kerry Corcoran has gotten past Marino Kolarek again. So they will be fighting again here if Marino Kolarek can close that gap here, but it has already grown to 1 second. And Christopher Smith is not able to pass Dennis Blomart for P7 and will finish in P8. Dennis Blomart P7, very impressive. Julian Karsi has no, he's also already in the finish, so don't know why he was going slow. Now Kerry Corcoran will take home P10 comfortably if he doesn't make any significant mistake. I think if you were to go around that track, you could get loads of free side mirrors for these cars, as many drivers have lost them in incidents. And Neil Killen will finish in 13th, a very good result. And that was it, a very exciting race, especially the start And into the wall goes Neil Killim. He has been sent off to the back rooms. And I think that is everyone in the finish. So thank you very much for watching this live stream. I'm sorry I couldn't keep up the quality today because of my cold. I still hope you enjoyed. And I hope to catch you all in the next live stream. Where the drivers will go head to head in Spa in the 5th round of the European Porsche Cup series. Now if you want to join this league, there's a link in the description to the Discord, or you could also search GRL in the iRacing League tab. Thank you very much for watching the live stream. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope